And so at this point now I can kind of play around up here at the A155. Until I find something that I kind of like. Or, you know, if I was in a live situation, I could actually adjust on the fly. Okay, so that's the idea behind the trigger outputs. Now, if I wanted to, I could take a different set of trigger outputs. Like I could take the trigger outputs that happen to be going out trigger 3, and I should get basically the same kind of idea. So if I wanted to have like 2 sets of triggers that I wanted to use with one post out to my oscillator down here, then I could do that as well. So like, let's say part of my sequence has one set of triggers, the other part of my sequence has another set of triggers. I can kind of manually switch them in between if I have a little pause right there. And then go down to 3. I would have to time this, of course, much better than this. But that's kind of the idea. You can have different triggers triggering an envelope source that can then fire into your VCA, that can then go into your mixer, and then you can have sound sources and shape them. So, fairly useful device here. Now, we have one set of notes going, so why don't we set up a second set of notes? And since we already got the idea about the basics of, you know, the trigger outputs up here, we can go kind of right into patching the second oscillator. So we're going to take post out from the second section over here, the second row, and we're going to patch that over into our A156 and go right into our CV in, and then we're going to take the output of our A156, go into our oscillator number 2 over here, and I'm just going to go into CV1, and now we need to actually set up our second oscillator. Now for this one I'm going to use the A101-2 low pass gate, so I actually only need one waveform going into it. Let's try something a little different. So I'm going to use this waveform, and I'm going to go straight in to the input right there. There we are. And then I'm going to go out from here, and I'm going to go into input number 2 over here at my mixer. So looks like I have my my low pass gate in self oscillation, so let me take it out of that. I'm going to put it in the both mode. Now you can already hear some activity going on. So my if I go back up to my A155, let's kind of examine what's going on here. Our post out from the top row is going down into our quantizer, A156, and then going from there over into the A110 oscillator. I'm going to call that oscillator number 1, and then I'm going to take 2 outputs going into the VCA over here, out to my mixer, so that's over here actually number 2. And then my second post out up at the A155 is going back down into the quantizer over here. From there over into what I'm calling oscillator, got my numbering system mixed up, maybe oscillator 2. I'm going to go with that. And then we're going to take that out into our low pass gate. And then we're going to go audio out right here over into our mixer. So we're actually triggering 2 sets right there. Now we do need to set up our second set of triggers for our second A140, so we can shape that one a little bit differently. So let me get that set up. I'm going to actually go back up to the A155, and I'm going to take my trigger 3 out, and I'm going to go into trigger 1 for our oscillator 1. There we go. And then I'm going to take trigger 3 and pipe it into our second envelope, which is right here next to our low pass gate. And I'm going to take the output of that and go right into the A101-2. So we have two sets of notes. I'm going to bring the scale down a little. Not very musical, so I apologize for that. Let's actually switch the setting a little bit and just go into chord. I'm going to dial in something else more pleasing to the ear. And I'm going to turn off a few of the triggers up here at the A155, going out my trigger 3. Now what's nice about using my A101-2 down here, the low pass gate, is I can use it for notes if I wanted to. So if I wanted to have two kind of interplaying sets of notes, I could do that. But what I discovered sort of going through here, unintentionally really, was I can actually set this up as a little kick if I want to. So if I bring my resonance all the way up, bring my envelope a little down, bring this down, can get a nice little percussive effect. Let's see if I can get that going here. So I'm going to go. Okay, so my trigger's going out. Bring the sustain up. I'm kind of liking that. Not exactly a kick drum, but so still pitched, but actually a little bit more percussive. So then the focus would be more on my oscillator with pitches. And if I wanted to, I could adjust some of the signal here. Maybe take my glide down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so we have two sets of triggers activating two sets of envelopes down here, or actually two envelopes down here, one set if you want to be technical about it. And then I can shape each individual sound at this point and arrive at some very interesting results. At any time, if I want to speed up my sequence, I can go up into my top section over here and bring up the tempo, or I can bring it down. If I want to go down and I want to change the octaves of my VCOs, I can do that. I can kind of change my general tuning. So you have a few ways that you can adjust tuning here, going over into your final output over here at our mixer. And of course you have the scale up here as well. we got a nice little kick going. Switch it over into the both mode. It gives us some more little slight percussive effect. Actually like that a little bit. Let me go back to my A155. Kind of nice little pingy activity over here. Now if I wanted to just go nuts, I could actually switch it a little bit, take one post out. Switch my post outs. And since that wasn't actually planned, you know, the activity on it is fairly strange, and it sounds that way. Let me switch my triggers as well, and just hear what results I get. So I'm going to do that. And we're still activating in just chord mode over here at the A156, so why don't we try maybe something a little different, maybe go to scale. Maybe we'll have better luck. I'm going to switch over into the +7 position. Maybe the quint mode. Okay, so this is our basic idea going on here. You can trigger envelopes with the trigger outputs, among other things, and then you can send notes out from the A155 out to oscillators and then control them in a lot of interesting ways. And I'm sure some of you out there are much more skilled at detecting pitch. Obviously from this demo you may have noticed that my skills are elsewhere, so to speak. At any rate, this is going to wrap up the first section of our A155 analog trigger sequencer demonstration, talking specifically about notes and triggers. Let me bring my mix signal down a little bit. In the next demonstration, we're going to be doing a little more of sequenced frequency modulation, and then just kind of going back and filling in the little gaps before we move forward. Coming up, we will be talking also about the Doepfer A154 sequencer controller. It's kind of off camera right now, but I do want to go into that and discuss it as well as demonstrate it. Right now I just wanted to go through kind of the basics of the A155 and get that kind of ingrained, and then we'll go into a little bit more interesting stuff a little bit later. So thanks for watching, and please stay tuned, and we'll be going into another demonstration fairly shortly.